Welcome everyone back to episode 2 of the Miles Hannick Show for July 16th, 2026. I'm coming back at it for a second consecutive day. We have enough on the agenda to talk about. It may be a lighter episode, but there's still enough that I think it can be something substantial to throw at the wall. And let's see, just if it sticks. But we'll just jump right into it. Where we always kick off on the gridiron. It's actually been one of the days where football really had a minor news cycle, and especially when it comes to related to Penn State, the only real development came with class of 2028 quarterback James Armstrong. James Armstrong, a lot of surprise was in town whenever he actually originally committed. It was an in-state guy and from Hopewell and Aliquippa. It was a little bit surprising to see him actually come in. There's been a lot of bad juju when it comes to these, local prospects for once, but he's someone who there's a lot of, early high ceilings for him, even though his, college career is almost, or high school career that is almost halfway through. So nevertheless, he went on to a live show with Blue and White Illustrated, and he completely reaffirmed his commitment, which means a lot, knowing that, like I said, it's only halfway through. He basically reaffirmed that NIL will not be a main driving force in flipping him, and that he's really just looking for these extracurricular developmental things that he believes Penn State can offer. So starting off with a little bit of positivity, it just mirrors what I said a little bit last episode with the tackles, that there's really a lot of optimism when it comes to recruiting for once, and it's a big flip-flop from maybe where it was a week or two ago. And I think it just reminds a lot of the fan base to let time do its course and let, these coaches really get in the saddle and in the pocket, because the wins will come. And this is just another reflection of that. The guys will come to Penn State. But other than that, there's really nothing else that comes to football. Even that was kind of overshadowed. Former Penn State coach James Franklin, love him or hate him, he, of course, was in front of the media as always. I mean, this time makes sense. He was with ACC Media Days, can't really avoid it. But some people, have called it what it is when maybe his media stuff, maybe he's trying to get his sound bites per se. But some of them hit home to Penn State, and I wrote a blog about it, maybe breadcrumbing to a sense, but I don't necessarily believe, and I wrote about this too, that any of these quotes were related to Penn State, and that there's just still this cloud over the relationship that remains that shouldn't. Um, I really will advise those of you that are listening to really listen to those quotes fully and to my blog, because I believe the insight is really there, although this has been something we have to talk about. I mean, the relationship's still obviously there, and the amount of dialogue that has been related to Penn State is bizarre. I'm not going to get too much deeper into it, but I think that'll close it up for our football for once, actually. That's been a very, very brief start on the gridiron, but it honestly makes sense. I mean, the biggest news of today will be that women's volleyball, while Penn State football is actually going to be in Philadelphia playing Temple, that won't be the main event. Women's volleyball snatched the headlines today when it was announced that they will return to Philadelphia's Palestra to play Stanford on September 11th for the first time in 41 years. I mean, this is amazing. I'm just so happy that the Palestra is really becoming a main fixture for Penn State, not just basketball. And it's nice that the volleyball team is going to go out there whenever football is out there, maybe save on some travel or whatnot. Logistically, I think there's a lot that's going on with the women volleyball schedule, right? They obviously have their AT&T in Dallas. They'll be playing at that Spikes Under the Light tourney to begin the season. They'll have their Wrigley Field match against Kentucky. So then you throw in this Palestra against Stanford. There's a lot of high caliber opponents and, high viewed venues that these teams are going to be in. So while maybe Schumacher Colley's unit didn't necessarily have the greatest national championship defense last year, I am really excited for the next season. Maybe not necessarily just for the performance, but the showmanship of it all is going to be unprecedented. And I'm really appreciating it. I really always like whenever other sports get their love, and volleyball is one that absolutely deserves it, as we've seen is all they've done and represented the university in recent years. So really excited to see, and we'll see what it all happens whenever the first set is actually smashed down. But I'm expecting a much better season, and with that being in the prime time slots, a lot of these weeks, it's going to be a hopefully a recipe for them to go deep into the NCAA's once again. But patching it off, we're going to get into a big segment here. We have three sports that there's been minor, major recruiting developments, whatnot. The first was softball. It was announced that head coach Clarissa Crowell and assistant coaches Lauren Foster and Alexis Gallagher will be heading to the PGF Nationals in Huntington Beach, California. This is one of the best fast pitch tournaments for under 14, 16, and 18s. I really like this. We've seen that softball is really a sport kind of like baseball and, almost anything nowadays where you have to get to these kids younger and going into these major prestige tournaments where other top programs are going to be. It's really massive. And I think softball is one of those programs at Penn State that could be a lot bigger. And I think the love for it really is untapped. And this is one of those moves that, I mean, I've covered softball for a little bit and I've always had my eye on that program, that this is just something new for them. And it really feels like the recruiting has dialed up per se, and they want to be a program that can nationally contend. And it all starts with this recruiting, especially with Crowell. And she's been proven to not just freshman talent has been amazing, but also through the portal. I wouldn't be surprised if she comes back from this trip and you hear potentially down the line that there was a few relationships fostered here on the West Coast. But obviously you have to bring that to the attention for that possibility. But moving on, that was the most minor of our recruiting news. The capping it off in the middle, we have women's soccer announced defender Brooklyn Unatucci joined from Long Beach State. She's a defender, 5'5". 2023 was her freshman season. She had a good year, second team All Big West and All Big West freshman team. Then 2024, she had to use her medical red shirt, did not play at all. Then last season, 17 games played, didn't really miss a beat. That injury, there's obviously some worries, but appeared, just as normal. Can see her heat maps on SofaScore. She appeared, looks like almost as a fullback, but then also as a central defender in high school. You could see she also played midfield. So I think this is a very, very competent defender. Long Beach was mediocre. It's really hard to judge through their, performance and defensive statistics how, her as a defender will perform. But from every metrics I've seen from her SofaScore, she had a 6.78. Her heat maps really just showed a lot of versatility. So I think she can slot into a women's soccer unit that can really utilize her anywhere, whether it be those various roles. And especially, a player like this that's coming over from Long Beach State, there's a lot of, where exactly do those things translate. But she played in a team where they had a lot of competency. They used a five at the back at times and with those various roles. So I'm really excited to see how this one pans out. And I think that she will be a very essential piece to Coach Erica Dombach's unit. I do think there's more to come, but let's just say the first year of Jeffrey Field will be set up for hopefully some good fireworks and some good shows. But moving on, we talked about women's lacrosse made a pair of additions yesterday. Those were announced on their social medias, but then they also sent out a full release. They made 3 also additional transfers for a total of 5. Midfielder Maya Carroll and midfielder Audra Hansen and attacker Shay Higgins also joined. Carroll joins from University of Albany. Audra Hansen joins from UMass Lowell. And Shay Higgins joins from Jacksonville. All 3 of these people are pretty attack competent players, despite them being, only one of them being an attacker. Shay Higgins has a very, very, decorated 2-year career in Jacksonville. I would really be optimistic to what she could do in the Big Ten. And, you're getting a sophomore, a grad student, and a junior. There's kind of a balance of that youth and competitiveness. I said it last episode, and I'll say it again. Like, trainers really tailoring her approach to fill those needs in her squad. And I'm really optimistic to where this team can go. I think by all metrics, they exceeded those expectations last year. And I think, just seeing these additional, players that are going to be on her squad next year, that the sky really is only the limit. And I wouldn't count them out to go very deep into the playoffs, but that'll put the cap on the additions for now. That's all that the athletic department really did for today. Very busy, but the last thing I want to talk about, it was also announced that there would be a pop-up shop at Pagula with more Adidas gear revealed, sports specific for once. You can go to Penn State Athletics official Twitter to see, the picture if you want to see the official merch, what I'm talking about. But the reason I'm bringing it to the attention is a lot of the dialogue has been, what do we expect from this Adidas partnership? There's been some bliss, there's been some, maybe new is good type of thing, but these designs that we've seen, there's been a little bit of doubt, and I feel like it's only gonna get even larger with what I've seen. These designs are very bland and very unoriginal, not really sports specific, even though that's what they're being advertised from. It's really just a format with specific sports specific logos changed out, where it looks like they could have been mass produced by any point, even though they probably obviously were. But I don't know. The touch is sort of gone, and it just doesn't necessarily feel the same as when we were in Nike school. Obviously, there's those kinks to be figured out, but a lot of people are still not happy. And obviously, you're going to have to go see what I mean whenever, to draw your own conclusions. But we'll see down the line. It's definitely a more gradual release between this partnership. And I definitely feel like it's sort of a gauging where the people, want this thing to go, what they want it to look like. But I definitely feel like that still needs to be, felt around and met with, because we're not there yet, and the attire just isn't Penn State material yet. But nevertheless, it was a shorter episode, not even half of the duration of our last one. But regardless, we absolutely flew through it. I hope that we'll have another day tomorrow, and I'll meet you guys Friday. But if not, maybe I'll see you over the weekend. I don't expect much coming up. Obviously, there's this lingering whiteout news potentially for football. But other than that, it just feels like we're really into a dry spell. But yeah, I'll potentially see you guys in episode 3, and signing off from the Miles Hannick Show. I'm Miles Hannick.